A week from today, a very special event that goes on in Southwest Michigan. Actually, it's gone on for several years now. And Town Square Media, Southwest Michigan, is happy to be among the media sponsors for something called Dining Out for Life. And Kelly Doyle is here to talk to us a little bit about that from CARES, Community AIDS Resource and Education Services, here serving the several counties in Southwest Michigan, minimizing the effects of HIV right here in our area. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Richard. How are you?
Great. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
What is Dining Out for Life?
Well, Dining Out for Life is a great fundraiser where you just go out to eat, you drink, you take food out, whatever you like, have lots of dessert. And then the restaurants...
Sounds pretty normal for me so far.
And then the restaurant will donate 25% of their take for that night to CARES, for that whole day, actually.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible that happens. First of all, it's simple.
Yes.
All you do is eat, like you said, which I have no problem with. And then these restaurants that participate in this have grown in number and force over the years, haven't they?
Yeah, we started off with 8 restaurants. This year we're at 31. We fluctuated anywhere from 30 to closer to 40, depending on what was going on. And so we have a lot of restaurants that have been with us from year one. Right. We've had the different Manja Manja restaurants, Theo and Stacy's on Westnedge and Portage, and our Millennium restaurants have been with us for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And around here, Territorial Brewing
yes,
in Springfield will participate in that. Kitchen House in Richland, not all that far away as well. And so that's a nice thing. And how does this help you? Let's talk about that.
Well, the dollars specifically are able to help us do the work that we need to do, which is to work with people that are living with HIV, get them access to care, and then also to prevent the disease, which is us out in the community testing and educating. And we're 11 counties, so, large part of Southwest Michigan. And our job really is to minimize the transmission and end the disease, which is something that's possible.
Yeah, I think in previous years we've talked about that, and that is really a startling statement when you think about it, because when you're talking about these kinds of diseases that stay with you and there's not necessarily a cure,
yes,
you're very careful to talk about ending it.
Right.
But people in your position are not shy about saying that. We can stop this.
Well, what we found is that when somebody takes their medication correctly, the medications have come so far, and we've been really lucky with that. There was the days where people were taking medication 4 times a day, 30 pills. They're down to 1 pill, 1 a day. And the medication is so effective that they cannot transmit the disease to anybody else. So that in itself, taking medication and keeping what's called an undetectable viral load. Mm-hmm. Your viral load is so low, it's not detected on our current science. You can't transmit the disease. If we got everybody to undetectable, we would have no transmission.
Just let that sink in a second. If you just maintain the regimen,
yes,
it's dormant, essentially.
Right. It's still there, but it's so low in your body that it can't be transmitted. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't show up on test. I mean, it'll show up as undetectable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what that means and maybe what's stopping us from getting to that point at this point now. I mean, if it is simple enough to do that, it sounds like we should have stopped this thing a while ago. So we'll talk about why it hasn't stopped and how you can help with Dining Out for Life, which is a week from today, which a number of those restaurants in Kalamazoo, Portage, Richland, and in Springfield as well will participate. And all you have to do is show up and eat. So simple, and we'll talk more about that in just a second on 95.3 WBCK. Kelly Doyle's here from CARES in Southwest Michigan. 11 counties under your umbrella, including Calhoun,
yes,
where CARES is responding and helping folks living with HIV to manage the disease, not transmit it.
That's right.
And access the services they may or may not need, but they need to know about if they're out there. So that's the global explanation about what you do. What's the lay of the land right now as far as the disease is concerned globally? Are we still seeing transmission rates going up in spite of what we've just talked about, that we could stop it.
No, we were seeing them level off, and then we are actually starting to see some declines.
Good.
And when I started with CARES in 2003, it was like 40% of people that were HIV positive, the people that were infected, did not know that they were infected. That's down to 14%. So we went from 40% of people being positive, not knowing, down to 14%. So there's been a lot of work that's been done, a lot of resources. Part of that is because of President Obama. He created a national AIDS strategy, the first of its kind by any administration, and it had outcomes and goals in the nation to work towards. And there was also an Office of AIDS Policy under his wing. Unfortunately, nobody's clear of what's happening with that office. There's been rumors that it's been closed, and so there's concerns.
Yeah, what does it mean, though, for organizations that have a local focus like yours when the national there's a national purview on it? What does that mean for you?
Well, we're funded federally. Yeah. Our dollars are called Ryan White dollars, and those are federal funds, and they come through the state health department. So it really does affect the work that we do. We're a part of a much larger group. We have the goals locally, but we're all working on these kind of state goals that then report federally. There's two. We talked about. What is stopping us from ending the disease? Two things: stigma and resources. And we're seeing that people, even though the disease has evolved, they still have the knowledge from like 1987. So we're not seeing that change. People still believing you can get it from kissing or toilet seats or spitting. These are all ways that HIV cannot be transmitted. And so those are our biggest hurdles.
Well, and if you think about that statistic from way back then that you talked about, imagine that for just a second, that 40% back then of people who were infected did not know, and thus are subject to transmitting it without knowledge of it.
Right.
And that number has gone way down. But that's the challenge. I think you've painted that picture, is reaching those people, isn't it?
Yes. And like I said, the stigma is still alive and well. Yesterday, I talked to a case manager who saw somebody online that somebody outed their status, put a picture of them, put a picture of their medication, was saying, don't have sex with this person, don't talk to this person, calling them dirty. We have clients that tell us about going to the home for dinner, and everybody's got the nice china, and they have a plastic fork and plate and cup because people do not know that you can't get it that way. But that stops people from wanting to test. It stops people from wanting to treat. And when we're not treating, which we just talked about, treatment equals prevention. Yeah. And they're not testing, then we're not going to be able to end the disease.
That's incredible that some of that still goes on. I think there's also, and you can correct me if this isn't true, a certain amount of resetting you have to do with education. That is to say, people come of age and they come to a point where they have to be educated about these things, and that's a constant job, isn't it?
Well, and I think we're looking at our younger people, and one thing is that the sexual education programs in our United States are kind of all different. Yeah. County to county, and so some of them learn about HIV, some of them don't. And then also, we have people that come in and they have no fear of HIV because they didn't live through the 80s and 90s, didn't see their friends die. And then you have some people that they immediately feel like, I'm going to die, And so there really is a lack of education out there that we're trying to fill that gap.
Do you find that you're always trying to educate folks from that perspective about what went on in the early days?
I think I do, as far as making it clear that things have changed, but it is something that, we never want to get back there. There's been talks with changes in funding, fears of going back to the 80s. You'll see a lot of national activists online saying we can't go back there. We have to make sure that we're funding, HIV services. And if that, a lot of people rely on that national funding to be able to get their medications, to get to the doctors. So, an average cost could be $15,000 a year for the medications. So that those are necessary, though, and life-saving.
I don't mind saying I spent 6 years on the board at CARES.
Yes.
And as it relates to folks who went through those early days where they lost a lot of their friends, there were two folks who served on the board with me who experienced that. One of them was very closely related to one of the founders, not related, but close friends with one of the founders of CARES. He's gone now, and another one is gone now, just because time goes by and we age.
Yes.
And so we don't have those connections to those folks as much anymore. And I guess it's up to the rest of us to try and paint that picture.
Well, I started at CARES in 1997 because I had a friend and my roommate that was HIV positive, and he died of AIDS. And part of what was going on, I was in my early 20s. I didn't really understand what was happening for him. He was shunned from his family for being gay. He had a partner, but the partner was a very prominent businessman, and so the partner was kind of ignoring that he was so sick, and so I was taking him to the hospital, and it was one of those things. At that time, we had the treatment, but because of the stigma and the fear, he never sought treatment, and the rest of us were ignorant to the fact to kind of push him to that. And so after he died, that pushed me to go to CARES, and then I started volunteering. And
hence the job you have today. It becomes a passion, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Kelly Doyle is the executive director of CARES. Dining Out for Life is a annual event, actually, that happens nationwide.
It does.
And units of HIV service organizations like CARES actually execute this business model, if you will, at the local level. So next Thursday, you can go to a number of restaurants, dine out, and a portion of the proceeds go to the fight to which she refers. And they would appreciate it much, and as would we here at Town Square Media if you thought to participate in that. Town Square Media is one of the media sponsors of Dining Out for Life. We'll take a short break and come back and spend a few more minutes with Kelly on 95.3 WBCK. We're here with Kelly Doyle from CARES, which is going ahead with another year of Dining Out for Life. Dine Out, Fight AIDS. That's the slogan. It's next Thursday, April 27. And all you have to do is go to a participating restaurant and chow down. And 25% of the receipts that day go toward the fight against HIV here in the 11 counties of southwest Michigan. This, as we mentioned, is a nationwide event.
Yes.
So if somebody's listening saying, oh, man, I'm not going to be around, you might be going somewhere where this is happening.
That's right. There's about 60 organizations here in the United States and in Canada that are doing the organization. It's international.
Yeah, it is.
So you go to the website, diningoutforlife.com. And even if you wanted to find the restaurants locally, it'll show a map, and then you hit Southwest Michigan / Kalamazoo, and it'll give up our list. But say you're going to Minneapolis or Chicago, and you wanted to participate that day. Next week, mark your calendars, Thursday, April 27th. Just go to the website, diningoutforlife.com, and hit the city, and that gives you the list of restaurants and what's going on there.
All right, and the closest one to Battle Creek will be Territorial Brewing Company next Thursday. They're in Springfield on Helmer Road. Easy to find. But if you were in the habit of venturing out on a Thursday for Dining Out for Life, there's a huge list of restaurants, Richland, Plainwell, Paw Paw, Portage, and Kalamazoo, that are all participating. So that diningoutforlife.com, and then put the city in, and you'll see that list nice and easy. Kelly, what if somebody's listening right now who's a restaurateur and they say, wait a minute, I want to do that. Is it too late?
It is too late for this year. We put a lot of time and effort into marketing.
Yep.
And if you were
staffing too.
In the staffing of that. Yeah. And if you were a restaurateur that wanted to do it this year, you wouldn't get the marketing, and we might not fill your restaurant. It would be a win-win. This event is such a win-win because we do the marketing, we fill your restaurant. It's so busy. Everybody, especially first-time restaurants say, oh, my gosh, this is full. It's capacity. Like, yeah,
yep.
It is.
It is. I can speak from experience having staffed a Dining Out for Life event for several years, that what usually the restaurants say is, this is like a Saturday night in here.
That's right.
It is, one table turns over and turns over and turns over, and then they all do. So it is a busy night. So maybe somebody's listening who might like to do this next year, and so that's a thought. And we certainly would like to see more Battle Creek restaurants participate, too, if they can.
That's right. They could just call CARES. Our website is caresSWM.org, or just look up CARES of Southwest Michigan. Give us a call. Kelly Doyle, call me. My extension is lucky number 13. That's how you'll remember. All right. And we would love to have you next year. CARESSWM.org is the website, and you can find the info there. And diningoutforlife.com for next Thursday's event, the 27th of April. Nice to see you, Kelly. It's great to see you, too. All right. And best of luck this year, and we'll keep moving along. Thanks. All right. Kelly Doyle, Executive Director with CARES, the organization serving 11 counties in Southwest Michigan, including Calhoun, trying to minimize the effects of HIV.